Welcome to Lesson 1 of Online Learning. This is Unit 3.3 and it is Introduction to Trigonometry. This lesson is a review of what we talked about on the last day before March break. Some of you may have already done the homework for this. That's great. That just means you're ahead of schedule. And so I'm just going to do a review of what we talked about that day. So this will probably have to be done in more than one video. And you will end up uploading or downloading both videos. Okay, so let's start here. So trigonometry. Trigonometry is based on the ratios between the lengths of sides in a right angle triangle. The word tri means triangle in trigonometry, and metry means measurement. So we're looking at the measurements of a right angle triangle. If you recall from before the break, we have what's called a reference angle. This is either the angle that you're looking for, so this angle here, it's either the angle that you're looking for, or it could be the angle that you know. Whichever it is, it's still the reference angle. And so on the opposite side of the triangle from the reference angle, that side is called the opposite. On the opposite side from the right angle, that's called the hypotenuse. And on the side that's right beside your reference angle, that angle is called the adjacent. Sorry, that side is called the adjacent. When we take the length of the opposite side and the length of the hypotenuse and divide those two things, so that's the ratio of opposite to hypotenuse, that ratio is called sine. It looks like sin, but it's sine, and it's short for sine. So the sine of angle A equals the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the hypotenuse side. And then if we take the adjacent side and divide it by the hypotenuse, that ratio is called cosine, or cos for short, so it's cosine. Cosine of angle A is the length of the adjacent side divided by the length of the hypotenuse. And then finally, if we take the opposite side and we divide it by the adjacent side, that one is called tan, which is short for tangent. And so the tangent of angle A is equal to the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the adjacent side. We often use this mnemonic down here, so it's called SOHCAHTOA. So, S-O-H is so pronounced so. Ka, like you're about to say the word cat, and then toa. So SOHCAHTOA. Say that word many times in your head. SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA. And know how to spell it as well. If you can't spell it, then it's no good to you. So the SOH stands for sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, or opposite divided by hypotenuse. Ka represents cos equals adjacent over hypotenuse, or adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And TOA stands for tan equals opposite over adjacent. So you don't really have to kind of memorize these ratios up here. You can use SOHCAHTOA to help you remember them. Okay, now before we can use any of this stuff, we have to know how to use our calculator. So firstly, you have to make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So it should display a DEG or a D somewhere on the top of it. If it says rad or R, it says grad or G, you need to fix it. So how do you do this? Well, if you have a two-line display calculator, which many of you have, you can type the sine key, so you're just going to type in sine, and then you're going to type in the number 20, and then you're going to hit equals. And when you do that, I'm going to do it over my calculator over here. I've got sine, and then I'm going to type in 20, and then I'm going to ask it, oh, it tells me what my answer is. I don't have to hit equals, but you will. So that equals 0.3420, rounded to 4 decimal places. Generally, we try to round to 4 decimal places for the ratios. Okay, so if you have a one-line display calculator, however, you have to type in the angle first, so you have to type in the 20, and then you hit the sign button. So you need to know how to use your own calculator. You're going to get the same answer as I have here as long as you are in degree mode. Notice over here on my calculator, there now I'm in radian mode, now I'm in degree mode. You have to be in degree mode. So try the next two. Stop the video right now. Try the next two. Start the video again and see if you got it right. So the cosine of 75 degrees equals, so cos, I'm going to clear all, cos of 75, that equals 0.2588, rounded to 4 decimal places. And then the tan of 18 degrees is equal to 0.3249. Okay? All right. So hopefully you can get all those answers. If you can't, contact me, email me, do something to get a hold of me to figure out how to do that. Okay? So now, let's take a look at how this works in a triangle. Let's suppose we've got this triangle here. So we've got a reference angle. This is 20 degrees. That's our reference angle. The hypotenuse, this is our hypotenuse. I'll put an H there for hypotenuse. This side, because it's on the opposite side of the triangle, this is going to be called the opposite. And then this side here, where the A is, that's going to be the adjacent side. Now what we want to do is we want to find the length of side A. So you have to ask yourself a question. What side do I know, and what side am I looking for? So I know the hypotenuse, and I'm looking for the adjacent. So now, if I know I'm using adjacent and hypotenuse, I'm just going to write SOHCAHTOA up here. So adjacent and hypotenuse is the ka part, it's cos. So first thing, set up the equation. So this is just with generic variables, generic letters, generic names. So we've got sine of angle, sorry, why did I write sine? We don't want sine, we want cosine. So cos of angle B equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Step 2, you substitute values into it. So the cosine of 20 degrees equals the adjacent. We're using the letter A for the adjacent side because it's opposite angle A. And the hypotenuse is equal to 12. Now you want to rearrange to isolate the variable. We need to isolate this A, which means we need to multiply both sides by 12. So that means that A equals 12 times the cosine of 20. So I'm just going to put that in brackets, and we really don't need that multiplication sign there. Then you get your calculator out and you actually calculate. You're going to do 12 times cos 20. So again, if you have a two-line display calculator, you can just type that in. So 12 times the cosine of 20 degrees. And my calculator says that that answer is 11.27. And this will be in centimeters. If you have a one-line display calculator, you'll have to type it in like this: 12 times 20 cos, and then hit the equal sign. Okay? All right, so let's try to find the length of side B using trigonometry. You can stop the video now, try it on your own, and then start the video back up again and see if you got the same answer. So I'm going to do that. So this is still the opposite, this is the adjacent, this is the hypotenuse. I know the hypotenuse. I'm looking for the opposite. So in SOHCAHTOA, opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So that means that the sine of angle B equals opposite over hypotenuse. So the sine of 20 degrees equals the opposite, which we're calling B, over the hypotenuse, which is 12. Multiply both sides by 12, and you get that B equals 12 times sine of 20 degrees. So 12 times sine of 20 degrees, it looks like B is 4.10 centimeters. Okay? Just a note here, once you have two of the sides of the triangle, you could always use the Pythagorean theorem to find the third side, but I'd like you to use trigonometry for now. I'm going to stop this video here because it's getting kind of long, and I'll start up with part 2 next.